Wait! You look familiar! I know this! You're
Zora!
Huh? My name's Sora. Oh.
Stay back. For all we know, the intruder sent them.
Zora!
One of the staples of the Kingdom Hearts series is each game's inevitable final mix version, an enhanced version of the game adding more story context and gameplay elements to enhance the base game. These versions often fill in a lot of holes that people have with the base game, and it was no surprise that Kingdom Hearts 3 would follow suit, taking advantage of the modern practice of DLC. Except this time around, instead of an overhauled version of the entire game, we got an additional chapter to the game, kind of. As far as the story goes, Kingdom Hearts 3's Remind DLC revolves around what happened to Sora between the final boss fight with Xehanort and what we saw in the game's final cutscene. Unfortunately, it ended up being some nonsense with Sora traveling back in time and re-experiencing the final stretch of the game in the Keyblade Graveyard. Long, drawn-out cutscenes expositing the game's entire story are dragged out even more in this DLC, making the slowest part of the game an even bigger slog. This DLC did add a couple of extra fights, but the coolest thing it does is make the alternate characters playable in this portion of the game like most people wanted in the base game. You can opt to mash your way through the DLC with Sora, or you can play with characters like Riku and Roxas, shifting Sora into the party member role. It's a neat little change that made the fights pretty fun, especially on critical mode. And it kinda sucks that the combat abilities are so restrictive with those characters, but it does make the fights a bit more challenging and engaging than just rolling through with Ultimate Weapon at level 99. So sure, the story portion of Remind adds some interesting things to the game, but it's not really what I was looking for. A lot of the value from Kingdom Hearts' final mix versions comes in the enhanced version of the entire game, making for a much more complete experience. Kingdom Hearts 3 has received some great post-launch support with things like Critical Mode, the Oblivion and Oathkeeper Keyblades, and patches to tighten up the gameplay, but all of that was in free updates. And for this enhanced retread of the final stretch of the game, $30 is just a bit too pricey. But the strength of this DLC is the addition of 14 endgame boss fights. Perhaps the greatest part of Kingdom Hearts 2's final mix version were the additions of Lingering Will and the Organization 13 data fights. Those kinds of high-level endgame boss fights are the culmination of the series' gameplay, and they're highly anticipated in each new game, and Kingdom Hearts 3 was seriously lacking in that area, with only one secret boss. So after completing the story episode of Remind, you're once again given a set of data fights for superpowered versions of the 13 Darknesses from the game's story, as well as an additional secret boss. So once you complete the 13 Darkness fights, you unlock the secret boss that carries on Kingdom Hearts' tradition of nonsensical foreshadowing for future games. This was the biggest missing part of Kingdom Hearts 3, and Remind completely solves that problem. I initially played through the DLC on my original Proud Mode file, and was pleasantly surprised to find that these fights don't really allow you to simply mash your way through them. These are exceptionally well-designed and challenging boss fights, more than enough to satisfy hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans. And as a result, I ended up finally going back and playing through the game again on critical mode so I could see what these fights truly have to offer. No doubt it'll take me a while to make my way through all of these bosses, but the fights are incredibly engaging and are exactly what people wanted when we talked about the game not having enough challenging endgame content. On the whole, Kingdom Hearts 3's Remind DLC is pretty good. The story is okay with some worthwhile parts, but it's just not what I was looking for. I wanted to see the base game enhanced much like the previous Final Mix versions in the series. And I admit that my ideal DLC was probably a bit unrealistic at this stage, but I expected more than just replaying the final world of the game. But the additional super bosses are outstanding and exactly what the game needed. Kingdom Hearts 3 is in a really good place right now after this DLC and the numerous patches it's received post-launch, and it's still insanely fun to play. If you love Kingdom Hearts, you'll ultimately get your money's worth from what Remind has to offer, but it's really not enough to justify a $30 price tag.